host team, we have Professor Clark. Professor Clark will speak to us about depression and how it affects the legal community. First, we'd like to say congratulations to Professor Clark. Last time he was in the studios with us, his wife was about to have a baby. She has had the baby, so congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
So, Professor Clark, with finals fastly approaching, the Civil Rights Clinic decided to do a special presentation about depression and how it affects the legal community. We wanted to speak to you because we want you to give us a little insight about how law students can deal with depression, how they can seek help, and any additional information that you'd like to provide to us.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. This is a topic that I have a lot of personal interest in, having suffered from fairly severe clinical depression, acute anxiety disorders myself over more of my legal career than when I was in law school. Although the first time I ever went to therapy to counseling was when I was it was the second semester of my first year, because law school is an extremely stressful time, especially given sort of our grading model with the 100% final or 90 or 80% final. There's a lot of pressure leading up to finals. It's a lot of material to sort of internalize, and a lot of pressure to perform in that 2 or 3 hour block. That's obviously going to have a big impact on your grade. But depression, anxiety are big problems in the legal profession, and practicing lawyers struggle with depression, struggle with anxiety, struggle with substance abuse at a much higher rate than really any other group of professionals. And a lot of the statistics on how prevalent it is are really disturbing. It's in North Carolina, the North Carolina Bar Association did a study about 10 years ago, and we're in the process of updating it right now. But 10 years ago, in 1990, well, gosh, no, not 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's in 1991. What the study found was that more than a quarter, of 26% of lawyers in North Carolina were currently suffering symptoms of clinical depression, most of whom had never been diagnosed with clinical depression, but they were exhibiting the symptoms. And 12% of all practicing lawyers said that they considered suicide at least once a month, which is just astonishing and terrifying. As in recent years, as the economy has had problems and now is starting to recover, during the recession there were many lawyer suicides in North Carolina. In Rockingham County, which is just north of Greensboro, it was in 2010. It's a very small rural county. 3 lawyers committed suicide, which was probably, I don't know, a pretty substantial chunk of the lawyers that were practicing up there. And it's not limited to just random lawyers here and there. Some very well-known, very successful lawyers have taken their own lives in recent years. George Covington here in Charlotte, who was the founding partner of King and Spalding Charlotte office. Mark Ashe, who was a very successful lawyer in Raleigh. And a study out of Canada that studied the United States and Canada found that suicide was the third leading cause of death amongst lawyers. I don't know what the first two were, probably heart disease and car accidents, I don't know. But, the suicide accounted for almost 10% of lawyer deaths. Lawyers were something like 16 times more likely to commit suicide than a member of the general population. So, it's a big issue. It's a big problem. And it's one that, lawyers typically don't respond to very well, because they feel like they can't acknowledge it, they can't deal with it, because it would be a sign of weakness.
And here at Charlotte School of Law, they have programs that are in place to help law students, faculty, and staff deal with depression, anxiety, any symptoms that they may be having, family issues. I know one of the programs is the Bar Cares program. Can you elaborate a little bit about that program?
Sure. The Bar Cares program is a program that's offered through the North Carolina Bar Association. It's open to all students at Charlotte School of Law and their families, so their spouses, their children. And what it provides is 3 free counseling sessions. They're done over the telephone, primarily because the actual counselors that do them are in Chapel Hill. But you could conceivably you could drive to Chapel Hill and do one face to face. But typically they're done over the phone. But 3 free counseling sessions to deal with whatever, the stress of law school, um, whatever you have going on. And it's a great resource. It's totally confidential. The school will never know that you called. The bar association will never know that you called. And it's one of those things that the bar, both the North Carolina Bar Association, who sponsors the program, and the state bar, are very supportive of. They want folks to get assistance when they need it. It's a great resource. It's a 800 number that if you Google Bar Cares NC, it'll be the first result. Will be a link with the 800 number. Very easy to use, entirely confidential, and entirely free. So that's a great resource. Another one that is hopefully going to be coming online pretty soon is the school has been looking to hire and trying to hire a in-house licensed mental health professional who will be available on campus, 40 hours a week or more, to meet with students and talk about whatever issues they have, what's going on, and help them to deal with the stress better, because many folks don't deal with it very well. So this is something that's very high on the school's radar. Dean Farley has been involved with the Bar Cares. He's on the Bar Cares board of the Bar Association, and has been since he arrived. And the school has had representation on the Bar Cares board ever since the school opened. I serve on the Lawyer Effectiveness and Quality of Life Committee at the bar, who is also focused on sort of mental health, quality of life kind of programming for lawyers, and trying to figure out ways that lawyers can be healthier, can be happier, doing what we do, because it's obviously an extremely stressful profession.
So, Professor Clark, a lot of people may perceive depression, anxiety as a form of weakness. Can you tell us how we'd like people not to perceive it as a weakness and understand that it is an actual disability? Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the most common misconceptions about depression and about anxiety disorders, is that they are sort of a moral failing, a character flaw, a form of weakness, that you're just not strong enough to not have those feelings. But that's just not what it is. And clinical depression, when I say clinical depression, I'm not just talking about being sad. Everybody has times in their life where they're sad, whether it's, you didn't get the job you wanted, you didn't, you had you broke up with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or a spouse, you have a parent pass away. When those things happen, you're sad and you grieve, and eventually life moves on in perhaps a slightly different way, because some, losses are greater than others. But, for clinical depression, it's much more than that. And it's a joy. The color is sort of sucked out of everything in the world. Everything just becomes, the same sort of muted gray. And, you sort of go through the motions of life, but you don't actually live. And it's biological. It's a disease. And basically what causes depression, what causes anxiety disorders, is an imbalance or a lack of neurotransmitters in your brain, 2 primarily, serotonin and norepinephrine. And when your body there are not enough of those in your brain to carry messages back and forth to your, between the synapses and the neurons in your brain, your ability to sort of regulate your emotions, to regulate your perceptions, in ways that I frankly don't understand, is impaired. And if you want to think about it in the way that maybe make a little more sense, someone who has diabetes, their body doesn't make enough insulin, their pancreas doesn't make enough insulin to regulate the amount of sugar in their bloodstream, and without being able to do that, you'll die, because you don't have a biochemical that you need to deal with blood sugar. So people with diabetes inject insulin to sort of replace the insulin that their body didn't make. So, depression is very similar, at least on that fundamental level, that your body doesn't make enough of a chemical it needs to operate correctly. So you have to, take medicine or do something else that's going to replace the chemical that your body needs. So, you can't just sit around and will yourself, concentrate really hard and say, well, I'm going to brew more serotonin and norepinephrine and I'll be fine. It doesn't work. It's not possible any more than you could will your pancreas to make more insulin. You have to, medical science is a great thing, and we have, there exist a lot of pharmaceuticals that can help replace the norepinephrine or the serotonin in your brain and allow it to function like it's supposed to. But in order for people to really understand that, we need to get past this misconception that depression is some kind of character flaw. It's not. It's a disease. It's a disease that's treatable. And the more people that recognize it as simply a disease, the better. People don't get beat themselves up and feel weak and useless because they got cancer. Nobody chooses to get cancer. Cancer is not a character flaw. Cancer is a disease. Same with diabetes, same with lots of other things that people deal with on a daily basis. So, depression is a medical condition that can be dealt with. I've been dealing with mine for 6, 8 years, something like that. And, it hasn't been easy any more than it's easy for someone to fight any other kind of lifelong disease. But it's, a battle that you can fight and successfully, at least put it into remission, so to speak, where it's being treated effectively with medication. And, and it's not saying that you're sick and you need help from a doctor to get well is not a character flaw. It's not a weakness.